At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I'm Anthony C. hosting. Of course, this is your favorite program, The Hour of Politics, talking about politics. A politician is comfortably seated. Joining me here in the great state of Minnesota, he's no one else. Well, I say W. Jackson Jr., an attorney at law, a diplomat with some level of, impressive, diplomatic resume there. He's a very vocal political guy. And we are here to talk about something very, very political. The Cummings 2023 Real Change Team listing. Mr. Cummings announced his team that will help him get him elected in 2023. Liberians have qualms with some of the names that made the list. Well, we know Jackson is not on that list, but somehow he's been talking in Cummings' favor. He's been writing. And so we talked to reach out to him because we have not been successful in getting somebody from the Cummings camp to come and rationalize this list. Jackson said, count me in, Anthony. Let's talk politics. When it's about Liberia, I'm all in. Welcome, my dear brother. How you doing? How's family?
We're doing very well. Thank you for having me. And let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, absolutely to Liberians across the globe that are following your broadcast. Your broadcast is growing in huge number. And I am very much impressed with the level of work you guys continue to do. Hats off to your boss, Dennis Jah, and you two, and the entire team all focused on Liberia. You guys are doing a splendid job.
Well, Anthony Jackson, you've been a family man. We all here trying to make a living, and yet you say, hey, when I have the time, we'll come to talk about this country, and that's the only one we will ever have. We appreciate you for doing that. It's always good to have you. But earlier I asked for the family. How's the madam? How's the children?
Oh no, the family is doing very well. Okay. Since the hostility of the CDC government to me in London, my family and I, retreated to the US. We're doing very, very well. In fact, madam is at work this morning. I was running some errand for her. And I just got back to the house. The kids are well. I think they're having a small break, so they're here. I hope they will not interrupt this interview. But everybody doing very well. We're basking in God's blessing. Yeah. But thank you for asking for the family. Thank you for your concern.
All right. You are welcome. And then let us get to it. That fateful year is 2023. We really need a better leadership in Liberia. So that search is on. There are names who have expressed interest, one of which is Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings, and his effort to net the presidency said, well, I'll put a team together. And Liberians are concerned about some of the names they have there. So that is why we reach out to you to talk about it a little bit. So my first question here is, when you heard about the list and read it and listened to the press conference, what was your reaction, Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, even we can start a conversation by me telling you that, and I'm glad that you said my name is not on the list. And it matters little, right? It matters very little whether or not my name is on the list. What matters is for all of us, all Liberians, to see Team Cummings from an impartial perspective. If you were to look at the man track record, because as we come to deal with the team, what I thought to do, because again, the record's clear that, the last time I was here, I did some critique of Cummings. So I'm both his critics and his admirer. And let that be clear. The team Cummings, I think my takeaway from the team is that Team Cummings, unlike President Weah's team that has a serious experience deficit, Team Cummings is rich in experience and diversity. It is the team that Liberia is looking for because it encompasses Liberians from all walks of life. So if you look at Team Cummings, you see Liberians from all walks of life. I was very impressed when I saw for the first time in living memory a physically challenged person being a composite member of Team Cummings. Most of the team you see around, you don't see our physically challenged brothers. That physically challenged brother on Team Cummings, he brings the perspective of that community on the table.
Thank you.
And so it's rich in experience, unlike the team. So that is my first impression of the team. And even if you were to look at because while we discuss Team Cummings, I think we talk more on leadership. That's what I would use to.
And we will get to that. And I just wanted to get your first, reaction. Okay, so overall, you think it's a good thing?
Absolutely, I think it's rich in experience. I think it's rich in diversity, and I think it encompasses Liberians from all walks of life. So it's a good team.
Thank you, and we will get to.
It's a good team headed by somebody with unimpeachable integrity.
All right, thank you, and that will form the crumbs of the discussion. But I want us to go to something else, start from the beginning and all the way down. Now that we have gotten your reaction to the team,
right.
I really want to know: are you supporting Mr. Cummings now for president? Are you cleared? I just want to know.
I've been basically skimming through Mr. Cummings' profile, and I think he has an enviable leadership credential.
Okay.
And I think it is something that Liberia now needs desperately. His competence is something that is currently lacking in the country, and we need. We have his level of global respectability is something that Liberia now needs, because Liberia has a president currently that is making our country a global laughing stock by debasing the standard of the presidency to a merrymaker in chief.
So do we expect to see an endorsement from you at some point? Are you processing something like that, Mr. Jackson?
Absolutely. It shouldn't be difficult for us to support somebody who has this enviable credential that I just talked about.
Okay.
So I think Cummings himself, as the leader of the team, he brings a lot to the table. And in my piece that you reference, I said, and this is something that I will say continuously, is a bridge on which I'm willing to die. Cummings will not engage in merrymaking, celebrating his birthday party, while Liberians are struggling to find food on a daily basis, as was the case with President Weah. When President Weah was first approached about the shortage of rice in the country, he did not take it seriously. His first priority was to get his cabinet of nodding dolls to celebrate or organize the celebration of his birthday party. a party at which ministers drank alcohol so much that some of them vomited and poor people have to go and clean the vomit. That was not what we elected president. We are
Is
for
that different from? Hold on, Mr. Jackson. Is that different from what we saw at, I understand, the ANC Global Convention in Maryland, where we saw Mr. Cummings, his wife, and members of the ANC Global dancing buka? Is that different?
No, but you see, yes, it's different. Here is the dichotomy.
Okay.
You go to Canada and you see Mr. Cummings making intentional efforts to woo investors and interacting even with Liberian community. He was at that meeting in Canada. It was a serious business meeting. He was not putting personal priority, personal agenda on the table. The recent meeting you talk about in Maryland, partisan,
Right.
and at the gathering of partisan, you will see, the display of a degree of excitement. People want to hang around with the leader. He has to show his other side. But we're talking about a president who has the constitutional responsibility to improving the standard of living and the welfare of the Liberian people, is staring in a food deficit or staring at a potential food desert in the country, the lack of rest. It is unusual that Liberian people will stand in the queue 3 a.m. in the morning to get burger rest. And when the president of Liberia is told about this, his first instinct is to what? Organize his birthday party. Now, that level of lack of empathy for the thousands of our brothers and sisters on struggle street that cannot find food, I find it apparent. It is something that we
Mr. Jackson, my understanding is that Mr. Weah, hold on, Mr. Jackson. My understanding is that Mr. Weah had earlier planned an elaborate birthday celebration, as you always do, right? Until this whole right crisis thing, right shortage news, set in. So he kind of scaled down completely. It was something that was already planned. So he had to go with it, just like the ANC event was already planned. And, but then they brought their little buka in, So I'm just trying to see here.
Brother, there is a bigger burden of responsibility that rests on the shoulder of the man who we all stood in the line to elect for leader, president. That man, I be saying, I already planned my birthday party, so I have to go about with my birthday party, even when Liberians people are struggling to find food. That was kind of disregard of what the people interest. All right, the people who elected you, they are of food. They're waking up 4 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, and your priority is to organize a birthday party. If you're somebody who's familiar with the Bible teaches us that a man who cannot take care of his home is worse than an infidel. You can't have a leader who's supposed to be taking care of the needs of the poor people in a country abandon or ignore the suffering of the poor people for hosting his birthday party.
And so, Mr. Jackson, if you were in the position of the president, let me give you the opportunity, what would you have done differently to, I don't know, maybe avert this crisis that came down on our people? So women climbing on walls, people standing in lines, sleeping in lines for this. What would you have done that President Weah did not do?
You see, Jeff, so what I would have done, and it's a very brilliant question, so we can even take this thing home in a simple or in a simplistic way. Any parent who will choose to go drink alcohol, liquor, while his family is off food, there is one word we can use to describe that person's conduct, right? And that attitude is what? The person is irresponsible. So that man who will leave his family hungry and go on the alcohol table to drink beer, he's irresponsible. The conduct is irresponsible. What I would have done if I were leader for our country upon arriving in Liberia from the UNGA
So
as
if the conduct is irresponsible, then the one who conducts that behavior, can you also say that person is irresponsible because it was conducted by that person? Are you saying President Weah was irresponsible here?
what I would say on this occasion at this stage is somebody
Mhm.
can hear it. I want. I'm not. I'm not. I don't want to. Generally describing as being irresponsible at this stage, but that particular conduct.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can be a responsible guy, but if you conduct yourself poorly in particular areas, people say, "Oh, this conduct is irresponsible." So in the
Okay.
instant, it's the conduct to hold a birthday party, to give variety to a birthday party celebration, where ministers will go to drink alcohol and reportedly vomited, other than attending to the urgent needs of the shortage of rest in the country. That conduct I describe it as irresponsible, and any Liberian would describe it as irresponsible. No parent should leave his
Mhm.
children hungry to go drink beer in the name of celebrating birthday party. Your first duty should be to your family. You see?
Well
So,
noted, and I think you said that earlier. So what would you have done
so,
differently? And that's why you
what
were
I
saying
would have
before I
done,
interrupted you.
what I would have done, instead of even misleading the country as president, we are did upon arrival at the international airport by saying that,
Mhm.
oh yeah, rest in the warehouse. I would have basically said, look, this is a serious matter. We convene a meeting of the economic committee. Even if we have he should have, economists, right? Economic advisor, a national security advisor. You should bring all
Mhm.
of them together and have an urgent meeting as to how to address the issue of the rest shortage in the crisis. That would have been the first
Mhm.
thing to. Okay, so even if say for example the commerce minister, because there are rumors that commerce minister must have informed him that they were rest in the warehouse, he didn't go to verify. But as a leader, the duty is upon you. If your minister inform you, to either verify, and if you don't verify and you come across looking ugly, then you have the responsibility to either punish that leader who misled you, and by extension you misled the public, because the president was saying rest
So
for any, right?
if Axel Jackson, let me conversational here. If Axel Jackson were president, now
Mhm.
that it is more than clear that the commerce minister lied to the president that there was sufficient rice in the country, Axel Jackson, if he were president, would take action against that minister for misleading the president and causing chaos in the country, isn't it?
Absolutely, because the president doesn't come up as well clean or shiny, right? The president told the
Mhm.
republic based on information provided to him allegedly by the commerce minister that they have rest in the country.
Mhm.
And it has been established in evidence by even the action of our people claiming on war to get back arrest, going and standing in queue 3 a.m. to get back arrest. It meant that arrest were not in the country as stated told the public by the president. So if somebody misled the president and the president told a lie to the republic, you don't think there should be consequences? Has he taken any action against the president who quote unquote misled him? The
I
president
agree.
here
I
informed
agree
our
with you.
people. Right. So,
I
if I
agree with
were
you.
president in the first place, if I were president, upon even getting that information by the commerce minister as it's being alleged that they were arresting the country, I would try to go and verify. And how verification mean? Maybe the president can't take himself to go there, but you will ask other ministers to see whether they can go there and authenticate what this senior minister was saying. And then immediately you will convene a meeting of what? Of out of the cabinet or people who are heading sector ministry that have bearing on the sector that you're dealing with, right? So we're dealing with rest. You could bring in the minister of commerce. You could bring in the national security advisor, because rest
And
have national
I
security
And I
implication.
agree with you, Mr. Jackson. If you know
Then,
well, that's what
test
they
them.
always done, right? That's
Mm,
what they always done. Anytime there was any reported shortage of rice, we'll see President Weir and his team in the warehouses there, right? That's what they've
yeah.
done in the past. So when they insinuated that they would have done that to project that there's actually rice in the country and that people were just trying to spew out rumors or lies. I expected that, but that did not come. But what I want to ask also is the very time President Weah, you are querying him that he did not, show a high level of responsibility here, or he was irresponsible with that conduct.
Mm.
Mr. Cummings during that same very right shortage, that was the time he took to release his real change team. That was the very time we're having the crisis. Even though in a press conference he talked about the rise, but given the severity of the matter, the reason for the press conference was to tell us about those who were helping to be president. How is that not similar to what President Weah has done, or how he handled the rest crisis? How?
Again, there's a dissimilarity here.
Okay.
So we are dealing with a crisis that the president is mishandling.
Okay.
And an opposition leader says, this is the alternative I can provide. This president, on top of debasing the standard of the presidency, he is showing absolutely zero concern for your welfare.
Mm-hmm.
I am providing to you a sellable, a suitable alternative. This is my team that will work along with me to remove the catastrophe that is currently hovering over Liberia. There couldn't have been any better time to put your team forward for the Liberian people consideration. So Cummings put a team forward, even though, like you said, he talked about the rest. He took into consideration the situation on the ground, but he needed to provide an alternative. We can't just be criticizing. We are every day we're providing suitable alternatives. So Mr. Cummings thought to provide his alternative. If I become president, I would deal with the rest issue differently. Matter of fact, I would be even more proactive. We may not even experience the issue of rest shortage because I will be investing or put some energy into other mechanized farming. I will see where I can subsidize. So it's going to be proactive. You will not sit until there is a full-blown crisis on hand. So Cummings projected and show to the Liberian people a team of credible individuals prepared to help him to take over from what Weah is doing to our country. You can't be leader of the country and the people are starving and you're holding birthday party. Wrong.
And Mr. Jackson, if I may here, you said Cummings during that crisis was trying to project, leadership, that which, in your words, the lack thereof led us to this shortage in the first place. So here was Cummings saying, hey, this is what I will do differently. I will bring credible, and in Cummings' own words, he said, rich pool of talents.
Right.
And among the rich pool of talents, we have a Daniel Chia. And this man is being accused of being involved with the crisis, of playing a major role. We have videos of him being involved. And Mr. Cummings now is telling us during a major rice crisis, I'll bring leaders together, the likes of Daniel Chia. How is that a good way of projecting leadership in the midst of crisis when some of the individuals to put it right on that list, have unpleasant, record in our country?
Heiko, Anthony.
Yeah.
See,
mm-hmm.
what I would have done if I were Mr. Cummings,
mm-hmm.
and I would have been the first to criticize Mr. Cummings. If Mr. Cummings had come to the public and has said to Liberian people that I will not include Daniel Chia on Team Cummings on the basis of perception and prejudice, I will be the first person to criticize Mr. Cummings. Because the new Liberia that we are about to experience under Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Cummings' leadership, it cannot be a Liberia that will exclude other Liberians on the basis of mere perception, prejudices, and hearsay unsupported by evidence. That somebody say, oh, Mr. Chia did this, without any hearing judgment or without any judicial proceeding, we should toss and cast Mr. Chia away. I say no.
And do you believe that strongly?
In the new
do you believe? No, hold on, Mr. Jackson. You will continue. Do you really believe what you are saying strongly?
Absolutely.
That perception in politics is irrelevant. By default, that's what you are saying.
No, what I'm saying is, so as a genuine leader, the man who Mr. Cummings has projected himself to be, that we consider him to be, if he were to exclude any Liberian person, not out of a hearing judgment, but on the basis of perception and prejudice, I will criticize it. No Liberian person should forfeit their citizenship on the basis of hearsay or perception or prejudices. This thing is becoming ingrained in our society, where, in fact, let me say this. Let me say why the inclusion of even Mr. Daniel Chie is even important for the consideration of Tim Cummings. One, Mr.
Before you say that, may I ask this follow-up question? And it's a simple question. Do you support the War and Economic Crimes Court?
I've read, you see, that's why I say there's something wrong with our country. I've read almost all of the literature from Mr. Cummings himself. Mr. Cummings has expressed in crystal clear language, he has expressed with crystal clarity that he supports the War and Economic Crimes Court. So, where all the fear coming from, all that he be hanging out with the other guy. Mr. Cummings, what he has said, which I think is impressive, is that he will not exclude anybody. He will not limit anybody's right of citizenship on the basis of hearsay, on the basis of just prejudices based on lies and conjecture. He said he will not do that. He will be moved and driven by
Mr. Jackson, are you choosing your words carefully because you said based on lies? How did you come to a determination that any of these allegations are lies?
Last year is used in a broader context, right? Where people can just, one guy can just wake up there and say, oh, that Anthony C. man, you go following behind my girl, that man not good, that man arrogant. You ain't got no evidence.
So let me show you. The thing here is that you talk about perception. Hold on, Mr. Jackson. Hold on, Mr. Jackson.
I'm just saying, let me lay my thought on this.
Yeah, because I don't want you to go that route. That word lie, we know what it is.
It's a strong word, but I'm using it in a broad context, right? In our country, people wake up every morning and just say things about people without any substantial evidence. And I wanted to bring for your consideration and for the consideration of the audience the wisdom behind having Daniel Chie on Team Cummings.
You will come to that wisdom. Hold on, Mr. Jackson, because so the thing is about perception. It's about this man's involvement. The thing here is, Anthony Jackson, if someone, because Mr. Cummings want to be the father of the nation,
right?
There are people in Liberia who were hurt, who are still hurting with the involvement of some of these individuals. So Mr. Cummings here, by including Daniel Chie and others on the list who people have qualms with, it's like, well, this man is being accused by you of this, but it has not been proven. So though I'm your father, I will work with him. So my question is, why can't Cummings say, well, I will not work with you until that which you're being accused of is clear? What is wrong with that?
I think what is wrong with that is that Cummings will be setting the wrong example. You can't discriminate. You can't isolate. In fact, one of the reasons why we had a crisis in our country was what? The exclusion of other people on the basis of just mere perception. Cummings cannot want to run a wholesome, functional, change Liberia, prosperous Liberia, and exclude an individual on the basis of perception. That's not a Liberia I want just Cummings to lead. That's not a Liberia we all want to be led by anybody.
And you think the involvement of Mr. Chie in the war is just a perception?
No, the currently the accusation is not has not been tested in our jurisprudence, through our court system, right?
No, I'm using I'm just choosing my word carefully. I say his involvement in the war. Are you saying it's a perception? I'm not coming to judgment. I'm looking at judgment. His involvement. Are you saying it's just a perception?
No, his involvement is not perception. But some of the things that other people think he done with all substantial evidence will pass for the perception they hold for this man. But I can say to you, consider that I come from the Softing Post city of Buchanan, Grand Bassa County. If you were to go to Grand Bassa and speak with people in Bassa, they consider Mr. Che as one of their heroes. This was the man who stood out and prevented the MPFL from running over Grand Bassa County. So he has that. So, but we got to be careful how we try to cancel.
That may be true, Mr. Jackson, but chances also are that he may have hurt other people along the way, and these people are still hurting.
I'm not going to deny this. I'm not going to deny that when people participate in war, Brother Chia participated. His record, the people of Bassa celebrated what he did there. I was there in Bassa. He prevented the Taylor and of your people from going there to cause mayhem. That is what he did there. Other areas, he could have done something that was unacceptable. But until and unless we can have a hearing judgment, until we can, because what prejudice is basically holding an opinion that is not supported by evidence. And even if the evidence were to show, you will not change your mind. Now, we can't do this. In the new Liberia, what we should all be advocating for is the proof. And what is the proof? The proof is an application of logic and intellectual honesty to the conversation. All right. So,
Mr. Jackson, I want us to speak to reality here.
Since we're on the chair thing, I want to say to you, why you think if I were to speak with Cummings, and I know Cummings would think the way I think on the chair thing, if I were to Cummings, I would bring Chair on board too. Because what Chair brings to the table, which I wanted to get to quickly for the public to know, because we are raising against time here, is that on team Cummings, and I said the Cummings team was all involved in representing Liberia from all walks of life. So on that team, we have our physically challenged brother who brings the perspective of that community to the table. We have Brother Daniel Chie, who I can proudly say bring the perspective of those who participated in the war. If you call them ex-combatant, fine, right? But they participated in the war. Are you suggesting that those who participated in the war, they should not be represented on Team Cummings, or they should not come to the table with their perspective and their sensibilities? They should. Cummings himself has said that, look, I want to end impunity. I am in 100% support of the War and Economic Crimes Code. So if Chair goes there knowing fully well that he did something bad, he got careful because the better way, abide by the law. Cummings is not dilly-dallying, he's not acting like CDC, he's not wibble wobbling.
Mr. Jackson, and that is the problem. Hold on there, Mr. Jackson.
He's not wibble wobbling. Cummings, he's saying it with crystal clear language, crystal clarity. He said, I support the War and Economic Crimes Code. He's not letting CDC.
Mr. Jackson, those are just man words. Those are just man words. No, listen, Mr. Jackson, let me come in. Mr. Jackson, may I come in?
See, it's not mere words. You see, you will judge me by my action and my words, right? First thing was that CDC president went to America. He said one thing on the same war crime code, but now here Morovia, he said different thing. That's not what Cummings have been doing. Cummings have been consistent. And the reason why President Weah is dilly-dallying all over the war crime code today, because he has the notorious murderer called Prince Johnson that endorsed in the last time, and he's looking forward to that same endorsement. For Cummings, it matters little. What matters is the principle of justice. He said he wants to end impunity. And if the war crime code will end,
Mr. Jackson, you just use the word principle. You just use the word principle. Let me allow you to reflect on that. So this is my understanding of principles, right? If I say I support the War and Economic Crime Code, the principle is that those who are accused, I will not do political business with them until they clear their names. But you are saying I will do business with them until they clear their names. So You compromise your principles right there.
No. There's no compromise of principles. You see, brother, this thing that is now ingrained in our society, the perception, the prejudices, this thing about a war crime code. I haven't seen any international institution that have levied even able to levy this allegation against Mr. Brother Chie. I haven't seen where as the American, pointed accusing finger at Brother Chie.
It does not have to be Americans. It has to be Liberians who saw the war, right?
I'm not discounting their view, but you see, I want us to talk about, like I said, my conversation here on Tinku.
Yeah, I don't want us to pick on Daniel Chie. Yeah, we're just using it as a case study. And so let's look at it this way, Mr. Jackson.
Brother, we have to end first. Cummings very clear on this. The issue of impunity, we have to end it. I support the war crime code. So even if you participated in the war and you hang around with me, brother, I am 100% behind the war crime code. Even the ambassador of the war crime code was visited Liberia, visit, right? So he's very clear on that. He's not.
So that's the issue, Mr. Jackson, and that's why I wanted to come to. Mr. Cummings is saying he's supporting the War and Economic Crime School. The U.S. ambassador of LA comes to Liberia to find out why we have not been able to establish a war crime code. Made a big promise that the U.S. government will fund it and also provide the technical assistance. Mr. Cummings, who is saying, "Hey, I'm the different guy here," and Mr. Cummings is doing business with those who have been accused, those who play a major role in that crisis. Mr. Cummings is doing business with them. How will Mr. Cummings be able to explain that to the Americans?
No, but it's a simple thing to explain, which I've been explaining to you, except that you've not been paying attention to what I'm saying. Mr. Cummings' argument in chief is, as leader for the new Liberia, I will not exclude on the basis of perception or prejudices. If there is a judgment, or if there are, hardcore evidence, against a brother, then maybe. But under these circumstances,
but that is similar to what Joshua has been doing, Comrade Jackson. Joshua has refused to fire Maggie. May I let my question, Mr. Jackson? May I let my question? Joshua has refused to fire Nathaniel Maggie, Bill Tuaway, and many others that we have raised accusing fingers at because there was no court record, right? So he refused. Mr. Cummings at the same time is saying, well, until there is judgment against the individuals, I'm going to do business with them. It's similar.
No, the facts are dissimilar. No, listen.
Okay.
With the McGill and others, you have, and I think I should take my time to walk through this. McGill, how you call it, ball? Selma Serenia Cephas, Prince Johnson, Clovani Shema, they have been accused directly by a world superpower, the United States government. So first you're talking about what? The reputation of the institution that leveling the allegation. That allegation comes on our credibility. So a reputable institution makes a credible allegation against officials of our government. And we are so reluctant to move.
And you think the TRC is not reputable because it's not America?
Brother, even our TRC, whatever the TRC recommended, portion of even the TRC recommendation was challenged by a few individuals.
No one is perfect. America too is not perfect.
So that's the point I'm making. So the point I'm making here is you're talking about a credible institution like the United States government coming with an allegation against McGill and others, and you have the president being very reluctant to relieve these people. And even when the pressure came and Mr. McGill said he resigned, have you seen anything happen? But let me tell you what has happened. Even though President Weah is reluctant to put these people through court, that sting, that thing remains on the government. All that Mr. Cummings is saying, if Mr. Cummings were the president, he would be in a rush to put those people through the court process.
Mr. Jackson,
let me learn this.
Now I see why somebody from Team Cummings would not come, because this is a difficult discussion. Let me give the point and give you more time to explain, right? Yeah. Let me give you more time here, and let me chip this in. Mr. Cummings and his political party, evidenced by the press statement from Aloshoto, went and forcefully articulated the record of Benny Nayure. They knew him all along, and they chose to do political business with him. We all know how it ended. Mr. Cummings went to jail. Questionable record individuals. Mr. Cummings decided to do business with them. Liberians are raising concern about another individuals, and you, Jackson, said here, and you are saying that is okay, and you will do it. That is what Mr. Cummings is doing. I don't see any difference here, Mr. Jackson. I give you more time to explain that.
There is a difference, except where you failing to see the difference. And the difference and the argument in chief is very clear. Mr. Cummings has said that he will change Liberia. And he will not change Liberia by excluding other Liberians on the basis of prejudice. In fact, the first time the CPP framework document was put in the public, what was the public outcry against the document? The public outcry against the CPP document was first put in the public was that the document was exclusionary in its nature. A man who wants to change Liberia will have to take the high road. He has to work with Beninayu until Beninayu prove himself to be what people think he is. He's not going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to test the other man because the perception here against the man is so high." If the man can prove himself to be untrustworthy, then fine, we'll get the evidence before us. But under these circumstances, I don't think Mr. Cummings should draw a line of exclusion of other Liberians. The right to citizenship can only be limited by the courts, not by other individuals and by perception and prejudices. My right to participate in politics should be what?
So Axel Jackson will do business with anybody, no matter what the public thinks, in as much as there's not an indictment or a guilty verdict from the court. Axel Jackson will do business with that person. And so Mr. Cummings should. That's what I'm hearing from you.
So I ask you, this is a Socratic interrogation. If a brother Chie, you want to be president, brother Chie, who have basically participated in abolish politics for a while, who has participated at a serious level, come and gave you an endorsement. He said, "I pledge my support to support you." You will say, "Oh no, brother Chie, don't endorse me. I don't want your endorsement. I'm supposed to change Liberia." So since you participated in the war and the perception against you, even though there is not any incontrovertible evidence through a court, I will not. You can't do this, brother. You can't exclude. Brother Chie came and endorsed Brother Cummings. Brother Chie has worked in Liberia. He has a record there. Are you saying Cummings should draw a line between him because he participated in the war?
You are having issues with Josh. We are working with Prince Johnson, right?
Wait.
You are having issue with Josh. We are working with Prince Johnson.
No, I'm not. Why issue? I'm not saying I have an issue with Josh. We are working with Prince Johnson. Except apparently you're not following the trend of the conversation. I am saying, Mr. Weir reluctance to give full-throated endorsement to the War and Economic Crimes Court is as the result of Mr. Johnson's endorsement of him and his association with Mr. Johnson. That's what I'm saying.
So Liberians are also fearing that will become the case when Cummings becomes president.
Mr. Cummings,
Liberians are fearing that will become the case when Mr. Cummings becomes president, because he is doing business with people accused of war and economic crimes, just as Prince Johnson. I think that is a valid argument.
No, that's not a valid argument. That argument is not valid. Here is why it's not valid. The only time anybody will be desperate not to express himself or herself on particular, maybe I'll say, not controversial, but issues that goes to the heart of the governance of the country will be when the man wants something. You know what I mean? The fact that Cummings is talking tough, he's not president yet. He doesn't have the power, the full authority yet. He is speaking tough. He should be saying, "Oh, you know, for me, it doesn't matter. Let everybody come and support me." And blah 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 blah. He's not saying that. He said, "Look, I will support the economic code, war economic crimes code." If you could say, "Okay, Mr. Cummings not talking tough because he won't get Donald Trump support," no. Even with Donald Trump support, Mr. Cummings is talking tough. So your analogy is wrong. The only time the man should be soft-pedaling is when he won't vote. The man said, "Look, whether Donald Trump endorses me or not, whether whoever, I am 100% behind any impunity. And if the way to any impunity is to work with the War and Economic Crimes Court, I'm on board." He's clear with that. And he said, "Oh no, he will do what we are doing." No, if we are acting like what Cummings is doing by now, we should have the court in Liberia. What we has done is his failure to exercise the political will to encourage the court to come in Liberia.
So all you are telling us here, Mr. Jackson, all you are telling us, Cummings can do whatever he should do, everything or anything, and throw anything on the wall to become president because he needs the numbers. And then when he becomes president, he will be different. Is that what I'm hearing?
Is that any and everything? If Cummings was so desperate for vote, he would not be saying, "I endorse economic crime code with Prince Johnson winning Nimba." With high margin several times.
We are in the CDC said the same thing, and yet they are today.
No. They're not. You see, two different people saying, two different individuals saying the same thing at different times in the vote cannot pass for. You can't take both of them to be credible, right? You are looking at Berawia, and you're looking at Cummings' respectability, his credibility, and what he stands for, what he's been doing all through his life. And you say, because we are saying something like that, and Cummings, so they are, no, stop. You see, that's what people want.
I think Cummings is compromising his principles.
No, I don't think
Cummings is becoming a contradiction of what he preaches, because he says we can't be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. And what politicians have done over and over, just work with whoever they can work with to get elected. For example, Mr. Cummings gave the very Prince Johnson $55,000 in the name of what? Supporting education, as though what's the name? Prince Johnson is anybody to talk about in our country when talking about education. Why you think he was doing that? He was doing it because, so I think Cummings is just doing just about anything he can, throwing everything at the wall, working with just about anybody to get the vote. This is what purely it is.
You know, what you're doing, my brother, with all due respect, is giving a shiny definition for prejudice. Prejudice, we know it is like previous opinion, previously held views that will remain unchanged even in the face of evidence. A view that you held about Mr. Cummings, even though I'm trying my best to explain this, I'm still holding on to that view.
You are explaining it, Mr. Jackson, but I'm not buying it.
Looks like the way I see it, it looks like you want to slavishly hold your view, even though the evidence here is convincing. And that's prejudice. That's a bad thing about prejudice. I said to you, the example you gave with even the Prince Johnson, the school thing, there are thousands of Liberian young children that go to the school. Are you saying Mr. Cummings should deprive support to that school because Prince Johnson is associated with it? This man, Cummings say, I will help to change Liberia. Any genuine effort to educate young children, I will identify with. I will put my money in there. He said, because Prince Johnson established a school, so I will not go near. You think I had to run the country? You think it would be better?
So Mr. Cummings is doing any and everything.
That's why I think it is dangerous.
He's doing any and everything. He's doing any and everything, and you resisted that. But you just said that.
Brother, let me say this. Not any, no, brother. You see, there is a danger associated with the possession you hold. We cannot punish the good and decent people of Nimba because they elected Prince Johnson to be the senator. We can't do that. Similarly, we cannot, the plight of young children who go into the school.
Is Prince Johnson School the only school in Nimba?
Mr. Cummings is a good-hearted man.
Is Prince Johnson School the only school in Nimba, Mr. Jackson?
If you bring children, what's that?
Is Prince Johnson School the only school in Nimba that Mr. Cummings, knowing Prince Johnson history and record, can support?
No, it's not the only school. You making it appear as though it's the only school.
And so what was the goal there? What was the goal there?
There is the fact. Here is the incontrovertible fact. The truth in the public domain. Mr. Cummings is in the business of supporting schools across the country. Is in the business of identifying with young people. And even the team Cummings that you talk about, you just pick up one person. It's a team that's comprising of 44 individuals outstanding. On that team, you have somebody who represents the youthful ideology, of Liberia. Mariah Kekula. You don't see her as a shining example, as somebody who will inspire confidence to the youthful generation of the country. On that same team, you have credible Liberian, but you pick up Mr. Daniel Chia, and I am saying to you, Mr. Daniel Chia brings a perspective on Cummings' table. That perspective is, how do we deal with our ex-combatant brothers and sisters? How do we incorporate them? Are you saying because Mr. Daniel Chia participated in the war, we should cancel him? No, Cummings will not run a cancel culture. That's not what he would do. He will not cancel.
And that is your interpretation of cancer.
That's what you're trying to do.
Is that why?
Would you put next to Mr. Chia because he participated in war? That's what you're saying, right? Would you put
Mr. Jackson?
No,
Mr. Jackson, why you are doing? Let me ask you this question: have you disagreed with Mr. Cummings on anything?
But on your show here, I did an earlier critique of Brother Cummings before. I am saying I am impressed with the team because I said to you that the team is so rich in experience that Liberian can be comforted that the mistake that we have just made at the UNGA, that team Cummings will not do it. So what happened at the UNGA? President Wia's wife, the first lady, had to outflank the president. Nowhere any serious administration with experienced people will never allow that mistake at that high level. But we are well covering him up. Offline him. So Team Cummings has what? Experienced people, rich in experience. You can count on the experience of some of the people there. There are 4 people there. You can count on the experience.
So I was just using Mr. Chia as a case in point, right? I was just using Mr. Chia as a case in point, and I don't mean to pick on him.
Pick up even
so let's talk about Mr. Louis Brown. Mr. Louis Brown, and correct me, you were paying more attention than maybe I was during Charles Taylor's time. I think he was relieved of his position, in other words, fired by Charles Taylor when he was boss at FPRC because he built a house that was, that raised eyebrows, to put it right, in the country. I mean, imagine Taylor firing somebody the guy who literally had the Bank of Liberia in his house, had to let Mr. Brown go because of a house we had just come from war, and Mr. Brown bid us. So these are the kind of rich talents Mr. Cummings is talking about.
You see, what you just done is to prove why Mr. Cummings' decision is rational and proper. Because you just sprouted a hearsay that is without any independent evidential support. Mr. Louis Gassi, that Brown was promoted. Where are you getting this thing from? You see, that's the perception. People just mark it, organize it, and put just it. Mr. Brown, in fact, when the last days of the Taylor administration, it was Brown who was negotiated Mr. Taylor's safe departure from the country. He served as what? In the foreign ministry? Mr. Brown was the presumptive foreign minister, so to speak. He was the one left in charge. Taylor left him in charge to negotiate the Accra Peace Accord. Where did Taylor fire Brown? Who told you this? This is garbage that people mark it all in the place that people just swallow it. That's why we should not exclude anybody from the politics on the basis of prejudices, perception, and hearsay. Because why you just said it has no evidence to support it. Brown was a ranking member of the Taylor administration until he ended his administration. In fact, he negotiated the Accra Peace Accord on behalf of the government. When you say the fire here, that's not true. That's why Mr. Cummings is informed by these things and saying,
so name me at least 2 or 3 things that you have disagreed with Cummings on since he entered your political life. 2 or 3.
Brother, I was the first time when I appeared on your show. One of the things I was saying was that I think Cummings has a lot to offer Liberia, and I think he was going very slowly. I think he was not very aggressive with his campaign effort, and I see that based on the Team Cummings have brought some oomph. Some of the people on the team have brought oomph to the campaign. I see my brilliant friend, another young person. We're all in the same peerage. George Judah Wisner. George Judah Wisner is not just a seasoned diplomat like Minister Brown or Ambassador Brown. George Judah Wisner is an author. He got his own book to his credit. Brilliant young man, a former student activist, practical expertise in investment. This is a man who has been able to help. He helped the Ellen administration to woo investors to the country. He's a young man, brilliant. Gabriel McIntosh, no matter what you say about Gabriel McIntosh, he's a brilliant scholar. He helped to strengthen other people's economy, serve Liberia loyally at the ECOWAS with distinction. You still want to decry them. Madam Julia Duncan Cassell managed the epicenter of Liberia hospitality. Or any hassle, she sent her to
Comrade Jackson.
Today, when you talk about Julia Duncan Cassell, people thinking they call her 16-day of activism. This was a woman who said women will not be compromised in this country. These are people who are wearing their hair on Team Cummings. You still say and say, oh, why you put Chia there? But Chia bring a perspective. You want also know our
Mr. Jackson, I'm just listening to you here. I mean, Cassell.
You just talk about. It was Louis Brown.
And you're talking about Toga McIntosh? These people, these are the best Mr. Cummings can bring to us as a country. This is the real change team. Cassell was, more like a cash cow for corruption. And you're talking about Gabriel McIntosh, the passport scandal, and all that means nothing to Mr. Cummings, and this is the real change team.
And on this point, let me say this. On this point, I will drive you through what genuine leadership can do for any organization. Genuine leadership is what is needed to change organization globally. So that first thing we have to deal with the issue of perception. Everything that you said, but some of these people are perceptional because there's no incontrovertible evidence, no court have passed any judgment against any of these individuals. But you cannot even take just a single isolated case of the scholarly credential of Gabriel McIntosh, and you say it will tarnish him forever. That's unfair to the man. Gabriel McIntosh should be around his 70s. This man has loyally served our country. He has served other countries across the globe, respected globally. And you say because one incident that was never tested in any jurisprudence should cancel him up. It's unfair. But let me say what Cummings' leadership would do for the country. If you were to cast your eyes across Africa and go to East Africa, there's a shining example of what good leadership can do. If you're even familiar, you're a sport person, if you're familiar with the sporting arena, every time you see a team losing, what do? You change the coach. You bring a new coach. What do you think the new coach will do? You think the new coach will dismiss every member on the team? No. Every team has got its own talent. What coaches will do, and I think personally we actually have known this thing, but he know it, he know it. What a good coach will do, a good coach will what? Inspire confidence. So you talk about Madagascar, you talk about Gateway McIntosh, when they work under the leadership of Cummings, they will follow her lead. They will follow her lead. The team is always the reflection of the coach's personality. The team,
and that is the point I'm making, and you are not getting it, Mr. Jackson.
But here is what I'm saying. This the reason why we say this is we take after our leaders. If you go to East Africa, Tanzania is almost like what it still has this one dominant political party, right? The CCM. The CCM have produced leaders before, but when the CCM produced John McAfoley, did you not see what John McAfoley did? Cummings said, "I will lead by example. As a leader, I will be the first to set example." And you think Cummings, who is the leader, who integrity you cannot question now. You think he will serve, he will compromise his integrity. One of the things that Cummings said that I like is that I've come to change the way politics and things work in the country. I will not allow the politics to change me. That's Cummings speaking. McAfoley, the same people, some of the people that were in government, McAfoley met them in government. What did he do in 10 years? Go to Tanzania. There was a leader who was the first. When McAfoley took over in Tanzania, what did he do? Immediately upon inauguration, he went to the Ministry of Finance to put on record anti workers. When he took power, what did he do? Public officials who were deemed to be corrupt, McAfoley fired them on live TV. That's what good leadership is. That's what good leadership does. That's what Cummings is saying. So
why can't Cummings avoid these questionable characters?
Brother, you're not listening to me. Cummings cannot avoid the quote-unquote people who you saying get questionable character, because these people are what Liberian citizens, and Cummings believes in the supremacy of the rule of law. He will not suck into prejudice. Like one of the prejudices that you just put on here and I had to pull it to pieces and fell down flowers. Now Louis Brown was dismissed when Louis Brown remained inside Taylor's cabinet forever. Right? So Cummings will not just cancel up people and draw a line and exclude other people on the basis of perception, rumors that are unsubstantiated, prejudices that are based on people's own biases. That's not how you run a better country. But what Cummings will do, he will give every Liberian an opportunity, to serve. If they prove themselves unworthy under his leadership, he will be left with no option to do like what McAfoley did. Set example on them. That's what leadership is. Good leadership leads by example. Cummings said, "I will lead by example." The Cummings who joined the CPP, with all that they did to Cummings in the CPP, you see his leadership standing up and shining. Did he compromise his principle because he said, "Oh, how you got it? Ure was corrupt, or Ure is tainted, so Ure team will come in"? No, Cummings remains towering. He left the CPP clean. Even those who wanted to throw more on him, they got dirty more, including people like Wasema Senior Seaforth, who tried to use the judiciary, who tried to weaponize the judiciary against Cummings. Where is Seaforth today? He on prisoner bench. The U.S. sanctioned him for weaponizing our court. You see, so the Cummings is set leading by example. It's a shining example. I think leadership should inspire confidence, like what McAfoley did in Tanzania. Some of the old corrupt people, when McAfoley started setting example, they fell in line. That Liberia today, and this is not original, right? This is not original. Let me narrate this story because I think it will make the point. My friend Lami Pagor, he was doing his master's studies in London, one of the best schools in England, and he stopped by my house to visit. And he and I were talking. We were criticizing. I was basically criticizing, bemoaning, and decrying some of my friends in the government and the way they were conducting themselves. And Lami said to me, he said, "Isaac, some of these guys who you criticizing like this, $25 million missing on their man watch, McGill stealing all over the place, and those stealing were going out of faction. He said, these same guys, if you were to bring different leaders to hair Liberia, the conduct they exhibiting now will dissipate. He said, because he said, our country, we follow our leaders. You see, the corruption is a watch in Liberia today. It is a watch in Liberia today because President Weah created the atmosphere for people to steal. When President Weah took over, what did he do? He started building condominium complexes, 17. The sources of that money, of those money, so to speak, nobody knows. So what you think Mr. Weah was doing? He was giving a green light to his team to steal. Mr. Cummings will not do this. When Mr. Cummings comes and he exemplifies his integrity, his credibility, I will be the first person to go to 6 o'clock. You think any civil servant will come to where 10 o'clock and say, oh, the boss been giving me a hard time. Matter of fact, we will straighten the transport sector in the country. Public transport will be at its best under Cummings. All right? So, leader sets the tone, the governance of the country. The leader sets the tone. Magufuli did that. Magufuli will go to work earlier. For the first time in the Tanzanian history, since it existed.
All right. Mr. Jackson.
What did he do? Let me lay my thought on this because we got to get the conversation going for people to understand what Cummings brings to the table. He's an exemplar leader. What Magufuli did do, he canceled the Independence Day celebration to take that money and put it back in the government coffer. What he did, he led the clean up campaign. Even if you say Tanzania, East Africa, so far off from, okay, use it as an example. Go to Ghana, Jerry Rawlings.
So why is Mr. Cummings? Listen to me. Why is Mr. Cummings not running? No. Why Mr. Cummings? Why is Mr. Cummings? Mr. Jackson, you have been talking. Please let me come in. You have been talking. All that you're saying about Magufuli, and now you're telling me, well, Cummings can do whatever he needs to do now. He's an impeccable character individual. When he comes to presidency, then that's when you should actually watch him. He will do what he thinks or says he's going to do. So Mr. Cummings is not president yet. He's associated himself with people Liberians have problem with. And you are saying, well, this is just perception. This is just perception. So we leave it. The question I want to ask you now, Mr. Jackson, yes, what do you think we should do with our warlords and their associate? What do you think we should do with those people?
As somebody like Cummings, myself, as somebody who believes in the supremacy of the rule of law, I think we should put them through the court system. I think Liberians from all walks of life should embrace and encourage the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court, something that Cummings himself has endorsed, something that we is dilly-dallying about, ducking and dodging and dragging his feet on. Liberians who want to see a better Liberia, we have to work together to end impunity. We have to, look, you see, we have to even try to talk about strengthening our judiciary because democracy is not safe and it will not function well when we have a weak court. It was Associate Justice T. McKin Stewart who said that in open court, that you cannot have a weak, meaty justice and you expect justice. He said, unjust judges will not deliver justice. So what Liberia needs is that we need to strengthen our judicial system. We need to welcome in absolute term and manner the accession or the effort by the U.S. government to establish the War and Economic Crime Court in the country. We have to end impunity. We got to put
Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, quickly here. Mr. Cummings has been going around and calling himself Mr. Clean Hands, that his hands are clean. And in fact, even on his website, he's talking about running a clean government, talking about clean governance. All right. So my question here is, can one have clean hands, but do business with people with dirty hands?
Absolutely, brother. The thing is, the clean hand thing is that, look, we all go to.
Did you say yes to that question that your hands can be clean and you do business with people with clean hands?
Obviously.
And dirty hands?
You see, one of the, and this is going to be an extreme example, but I want to use it because I want to drive a message home across to our people who follow the broadcast. Jesus, the epitome of genuine leadership, though his hands were clean, the cleanness of hands, it did not stop him from hanging up with a notorious tax collector. Because what his effort was to what? To change these people. Jesus, he did not stop himself from hanging up with a woman who has several husbands, right? Or who have the woman at the well. The woman who has several boyfriends. You know, whatever need you want to call them. I want to be very respectful of the, you know, the opposite says are following the broadcast. I don't want to call anything. But Jesus.
Are you sure you understanding those two scenarios you're citing well, Mr. Jackson?
But brother, I am citing scenario. You are saying that because
Jesus did not put Zacchaeus, did not put the tax collector on his team. Comrade Jesus did not put that woman on his team.
But he did not isolate himself from them in the first place, right?
But they were not, they did not form members of his disciple that he used to change the world. But this is different, comrade.
No, it's not. The discipleship here, right? The discipleship here was that Jesus did not stop himself. He was not in an insult. Even though he had clean hair, he did not operate in an isolated community.
The point you are making here, Jackson, is that Jesus came for those who had issues, right?
Yes.
That's the point you are making. Jesus came for those. Let me let my point. Jesus came for those who had issues. To make his work easier, he put together a team of reputable people who are not questionable in the society. And he and his team now move into the community and start interacting with people with issues and solving their problems. This is not different. Mr. Cummings is bringing these people on his team to talk for him. These are extension of Mr. Cummings. They say, show me your friend and I will tell you who you are.
But brother, let me say this. The team that Jesus put together, it was not a team that was without problem. There was not perfect people. Even Jesus himself said that. Some of these guys were fishermen, and you know, in fishing community, whatever they did, that they did. The bigger point I was trying to make to you, you said because Cummings get clean hair, so he should not hang around with other people. But no, because you get clean hair doesn't mean you not hang around with people. Your clean hair should inspire other people to clean their hands.
Not to put them on your team. Not to put them on your team.
Brother, getting on the team. Okay, so Cummings, Mr. Uriger, let's take your argument to a better end, right? Mr. Uriger, bar hands, so to speak, blind hand, whatever hand is. Cummings interacted with Mr. Uriger. Did that change Mr. Cummings' character, his outlook of things?
But it cost Mr. Cummings a lot, and you know that.
But so
because that was a bad decision.
No, but no. The thing is, what his vision of Liberia is not to cancel all people. It's not to isolate other people. It's not to exclude other people on the basis of whatever they did yesterday. You trump people are. You trump their sense of possibility. That's another thing again you gotta consider. You trump my sense of possibility when you say I will not be able to change, or I'm incapable of changing. You trump my sense of possibility. The other thing, you can't say, oh, I want to run a wholesome change Liberia, but I will not interact with the other people on the basis of the perception. That's not good. It's not a productive Liberia that you will run.
All right.
Look, let's give a general example, right? Let's give a global example. If you go to England currently, one of the things that toppled, one of the things that brought Liz Truss down was her effort to isolate those who oppose her when she took power. Liz Truss, her cabinet did not incorporate anybody from Rachel Schumer camp. Today she resigned. Liz Truss today announced her resignation on top of the economic decline that she plunged the country in, the United Kingdom in. Her cabinet did not include anybody from Rachel Schumer camp. You can't run a country like this and succeed. When she got desperate, who did she run for? She ran to Jeremy Hunt, a guy who voted against her because it was desperation. But he couldn't save her again in the end. If we want a better Liberia,
that is completely different, Mr. Jackson. That is completely different. That is completely.
Here is the sense of it.
This is a candidate. I mean, this is a candidate to be. This is an aspirant who's running and preaching the message that you can't be doing the same thing over and over. Let clean hands rule. We're talking about clean governance, and this is what he does. That's entirely different from somebody who's already in power, Mr. Jackson.
No, but you see, if you're already in power and you isolate people and you fall down, then when you get power like then you start the isolation.
So that was the point I was making earlier. Mr. Cummings now is doing just about anything to get to power, and you said no.
Mr. Cummings is guarded by Liberia's history. For instance,
are you sure of that?
Oh yeah,
side history. And let me show you one of the side history. Hold on, Mr. Jackson. Let me show you one of the side pieces of history. Hold on, Mr. Jackson. Yeah, it is. So you see there, that's Comrade. That image, I don't know for a fact. Maybe there's somebody Mr. Che interacted with who does not want to see Che being a leader in our country. That person might have had this so much hope in Mr. Cummings, and that person is trying to listen, and Mr. Cummings is putting Che on his team. That person is disappointed or might be disappointed in Mr. Cummings. That is the point that I'm making.
You see, but what I think good leadership will do under these circumstances is not to isolate anybody on the basis of perception, on the basis of prejudices that are born out of, half-truths. Like Cummings have said repeatedly, for him, he will not interfere with the administration of justice. He will at all times put confidence in the supremacy of the rule of law. Only our judiciary has the right to limit rights as in keeping with the Constitution. But no other person. You can't say my right to citizenship is supposed to be so valued that nobody should just kind of say, somebody say that as a Jackson may not correct. As a Jackson may not correct. Because they say it 3, 4, 5 times, then who wants to be president will ask
Mr. Jackson, we are talking about documented crimes. Documented crimes, Mr. Jackson, against these individuals. It's not just these are all documented crimes we're talking about, Mr. Jackson. All right, let me show you some of them here, right? So in the TRC report, you see that these are the codes of the different violations that we're talking about. And now in that report, these are names of individuals. You have here number 1, Louis Brown, managing director of LPRC. All right, and if you look at the code, there is MP. All right, so these people are documented in a national report. You see Edwin Snow, you see Emmanuel Shaw, you see Charles Taylor. These people, Benny Nayure, who Mr. Cummings were doing business with, and he paid a price for that. That is what we're talking about, documented crime. So these are not perception, brother.
Brother. So you pull out a report and say, on the basis of this report, you should not do business with the people until they clear their names. You see, we can't run the country like that.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with it is we'll be isolating experiences that we could have used to forward advance the country.
Those are the only experiences?
No, they cannot be the only experiences. Liberia is vast. But if they are willing, ready, and able to help the country, it was this brand that you put on that list that you're talking about. Wasn't that Mr. Brown that they did all the vetting for, that went to the United Nations and served Liberia loyally and even put Liberia on a committee that Liberia has never served on for the last 50 years? Is this not the same man? The man who raised the flag of Liberia to the delight of all of us who are diplomats or who follow diplomatic activities. This man, is it man you're trying to demonize it or they put him in one list, whether or not he has a right
I'm
to
not
question
demonizing
why
him. I'm citing a report. I'm showing you a document.
See, I think it would be preposterous for you to allow people to answer to charges in court of law and you cancel them on the basis that the need got put on some list. I should have my right to challenge what need to put my list on. What need to put my name on. All right? We should not cancel people because somebody put it on list. We know what some of the things that went into it. I don't want to cast expression on the TRC. You know, I've been hanging around, but people, the broader picture here is we got to give people the opportunity to answer to their accuser, even in the United States where we live today. They call it what? The Sixth Amendment. They refer to confront their accuser. You can't cancel them up because you can't cancel people up because somebody accusing them or somebody trying to use their own prejudices again. You can't cancel people out. We can't
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we will be taking some phone calls. And so, folks in cyberspace, if you are here, it is about time for you to get your calls coming. The number to call is in the strolling text below. That number is also. Hold on. That number is also in the Facebook live feed. That number is there. I posted earlier. And folks, if you want to participate, that is the number you need to call. We will take a short break. Here is the number. We will be right back after the short break. All right, folks, we are back with you. Anthony here, the Hour of Politics. Mr. Jackson, we'll give you a little break there. Let's take some calls. Let's hear what other Liberians have to say. I'm sure they will have questions and comments, and please take a little bit of note there so that you can respond to them adequately. All right, so we will now go to that phone line. The first person here is Emmanuel Zazad. Let us hear from you. How you doing? Emmanuel, can you hear us? Emmanuel Zaza? Hold on there. Let me make some adjustment. Yes. Now you are clear. Go ahead.
No, it's not Emmanuel, it's Elvis. I think maybe you got my name wrong.
No, I'm calling Emmanuel Zaza. Number ending in 0461. I'm going by the order. Emmanuel Zaza, are you there? Elvis, wait. All right, Emmanuel is now ready. Let us go to the next person. Yes, it's Jennington. Jennington, go ahead. Your phone number ends in 8667.
Thank you. Anthony here. Are you getting me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead. Comrade Jackson, can you hear him well?
Yeah. I'm hearing very well.
All right. So, Isaac Jackson, I'm going to ask Jackson for his deliberation.
Okay.
But first, let me say that the issue of our country is about setting a tone of leadership. Now, Anthony here, you and myself, along with many Liberians that are in the diaspora and other parts of the world, violate the obedience and respect to time in our country back home and find any excuse to worship. But when we are told to come for our visa at the embassy, we are respectful to it because we know it is our future. We violate traffic rules in our country. When we come into America, we abide by the rules because the tone is set at the head. And so Mr. Cummings has decided as a leader that he will now adapt to the ugly style of politics in our country to set the tone. It is against this background that people who have been charged the TRC report have seen him as someone to admire, and that is why they are following him. If they are following them, they are following the favorite example of Mr. Cummings, meaning that they will do better on that team as things Cummings. More than that, Jesus said that he did not come for the righteous, he came for the unrighteous. Paul was an unrighteous person who followed Jesus when he was Saul. He followed Jesus very religiously and executed the mandate of Jesus Christ. When you talk about Mr. Yue, interaction with Mr. Cummings as to whether it was a good thing, it was a good thing for Mr. Cummings to understand that people came on board with help idea with gain a from the nightmare of blackmailing our country reputation and a wonderful series of resources. But unfortunately, Mr. Yue decided to go back to his old lifestyle and put Mr. Cummings in a criminal situation that had no basis. Today, it is still a global ministry. Because and the rest of the people are sorry for it, and it exposes Mr. Yue and the rest of the other people. On Mr. Brown's family, we have two political resolutions in our civil crisis. One was in 1997. No Liberian for any part of the world was against that resolution to have elections. Mr. Brian came from the University of Liberia, understood nothing but politics and campus politics. So seeing a more worried fashion that you cannot live on, the best you could do is to bring about political resolution. And that resolution won for him the election. Likewise, in 2003, he championed the cause of the CRC that we bust up today, that even put his record on record. The good about it is that we must open up for the CRC we put. And like Mr. Cummings would say, there are people who are lied on, and there are people who also committed crimes. Those individuals must face as accused or the victim in the rule of law. And by doing that, it is why the law, people who understand law, the market calls for due process or the process to be fair.
Jonathan,
yes?
You mentioned Paul. Paul was not on Jesus' team. Comrade Jesus' team, the 12 disciples, he was not one of them.
Yeah, no, my man.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Paul became a loyal follower.
Paul was not a follower of Jesus' gospel. He was not a champion of Jesus' gospel.
All right, I'm just saying he was not one of the 12 disciples. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you have been disciple, bro.
So what I'm saying in conclusion is that
that was Jesus. That was Comrade Jesus' team he put together. Paul was not among them because his record of persecuting Christians, Comrade Jesus could not have put him on that team, And so Comrade Jesus set a good example. But fast forward, he became a loyal follower. So go ahead.
Let me particle.
Yeah, please, 30 seconds. Others are waiting.
Who do we know Paul Kagame to be? Paul Kagame was part of the revolution in Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
What I think have been lacking of
and what has happened, because he came from a military background, he came to power, he's a dictator, so he brought those military dictatorship tactics, what you say should go and no one should question you. He's not a dictator in his country today. So what Mr. Cummings is practicing might be what he ended up doing.
What I'm saying today Rwanda is one of the best countries today that many people are trying to adapt after interest or development projects.
So the end justify the means, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when you have when you understand a political solution to any revolution, you can transform the country to a better perspective. Mm-hmm. That is why today the less of the Fidel Castro, they are celebrated because they understood the political resolution to the revolution that they had.
Thank you.
So Mr. Cummings understands that's why he has gone to be a court system.
Thank you.
The flaws in the court system, and he's going to correct those things. Thank you so very kindly.
I appreciate your call. That was, ANC star, Jennington there, Dolacare. It's obvious that what he will say. The next person in line here is Evans. Let me go back to Zaza first. Zaza, phone number ending in 0461. Are you there? All right. This person is not ready. Evans, your turn. Let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. King, and thanks for asking for being on the show today. Even though I'm thinking he will be on the show, but let me just quickly get to some of the points that he made. We know that he's a follower of Louis Brown, like one of his minions. Brown has given opportunities to serve the government, so he's always going to try to paint him white when we know that he's a tainted character in our country. Louis Brown is a corrupt man.
Yeah, talk a little louder, Evans, please.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I said, but talk a little louder, please.
Yeah, I said Louis Brown is a corrupt man. We know him. We know, like you were right on the point, Mr. Here, and I wish you
what's your evidence that he's corrupt? What's your evidence that he's corrupt?
Like you was getting to the point. He was dismissed from LPRC.
Okay,
that's a fact. He was taken from that lucrative position and given a less, lucrative diplomatic.
And that he built a house that had raised as bribes just about the time we have come from war. I mean, it's like Joshua is following his example. Is that right?
Right, exactly. Here's Kira Allen advocated for him to be fired from that post.
Okay.
So Mr. Jackson cannot deny that fact.
All right.
But like you said, Mr. Here, this is a public opinion. We in the public, we don't have to go to a court of law. We have our opinion of these people. We saw what they did. Most of us who may not have personal experiences, heard stories from other people, and we know that what these people did to our people. So, I won't take too much of a time, but we know who these characters are. There's no way they can justify it. The only thing they will have, they haven't been convicted in the court of law, so thereby we shouldn't scrutinize. And for me, that's BS.
Thank you
so much. I'll get the line. Let other people speak.
Thank you. Aliu Kamara, an ardent supporter of, somebody told me Dr. Bwaka. Did the old man get any honorary doctorate degree? I'm not a guy who call people by that honorary doctorate degree, man. I just making fun of you. Go ahead, Mr. Aliu Kamara.
That's something I've been over here for. I like Mr. Jackson, Anthony Jackson. The way he can go all around the place and confuse people and not talking nothing. That's the thing that can confuse me sometimes for him. He brings about Magufuli in this thing. Magufuli did not come from private sector. Magufuli was a lifelong politician until the age of 61. The particular political party you're talking about, he joined that political party as a youth until he got old in that party. So you cannot compare him with Mr. Alexander Cummings. But this is something you must draw from the statement of Councillor or Anthony Jackson here. Look, take clue. Why is it that George Weah supported war and economic crimes court, and when he became president, he's adamant as to not allowing that? Why? Because of the people he solicited his support from. One, Prince Johnson, among others, including ex-rebel generals who gave all of their support to the CDC. George Weah cannot betray them by bringing war and economic crime court. We are looking at the same pattern, even though it's not strange because ASC comes out of CDC. We are looking at the same pattern. All of those guys who were major players, decision makers in the war, are going to Mr. Alexander Cummings. And Samuel Jackson on your show says,
Isaac Jackson.
Isaac
Jackson,
on your show telling the Liberian people, even though you flip-flopping, you all would have singing would agree that when you bring guys like Donald Shear and all those guys who are loyalists of Charles Taylor and the NPFL, research members of the NPFL, they will allow for Mr. Alexander Cummings to bring war and economic crimes. Don't you see the pattern here, the same thing from the CDC? In fact, the same thing from the Ellis government. Okay? It's the same trend that's going. Why is Ellis supporting Alexander Cummings? Why is all the NPFL guys supporting Alexander Cummings? In fact, I can give you inside information. Charles Taylor is supporting Alexander Cummings. If you look at Charles Taylor branch of the NPC right now, they are all going to Alexander Cummings.
Will you say Charles Taylor is supporting George Weah too, saying his wife is George Weah vice president?
George Weah supported George Weah. The NPP did not go to CDC without the consultative agreement of Charles Taylor. They did not go to CDC without Charles Taylor. Believe that or not.
Well, so when it comes on this side, you believe it, but when on the other side, you say no, it's not true.
No. It's amazing now how AFC. Alexander Cummings at Jesus now. All the examples that Jesus brought people to Jesus. So Alexander Cummings now became Jesus automatically. You understand what I'm saying?
All right.
It's amazing. It's amazing how Cummings that Jesus Christ now, and he's there to go for the sinful people. So all these guys who are joining Cummings now, if they're listening, as far as Cummings and his entourage and his services are concerned, these guys are sinners.
Thank you.
Cummings is trying to waive their sin. Thank you so much.
All right. We will go to Harrison, Harrison, my
answer some questions.
Yeah, no. Let me take the last two, Mr. Jackson. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. C. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you very much. So what's all Liberia is a very dangerous country. You know, Liberia is full of a bunch of hypocrites. These very same people that somebody has been criticizing today, if you're on your team, you're not be saying what they're saying. And many of them are really scared right now that are coming to give the kind of support that you're getting. You know what I mean? So that's they are very, very afraid right now. Right? But my bigger point is this, right? You see, you guys are not, giving Cummings, his due credit. You know what I mean? On the one hand, this man is this thing as this, pure human being. But this man always tell you that he's not. He's a human being. He has his flaws. It's evident by his decision when he came to Liberia. He wanted to, put himself as this, claim man, I don't want to deal with anybody dirty. He would have started his own political party. Okay? Since the history of Mr. Cummings going to learn into the politics of Liberia, he said to his people that supported him, that petitioned him, he said, if you guys claim that we're the good people, then let us go in the midst of the bad people and change them. If you claim that we are the good people, let our goodness be the light for the bad people. It always been Mr. Cummings' claim. So to paint this man as if he came to say he's special, and he's this person. No, he doesn't see himself that way because the problem in Liberia was not created by him. All he's trying to do is to help solve the problem. It's hard to say. The only thing you start really judging Cummings is because when you become president, you say, oh no, we have to start judging him right now. That's true. Because you have to start judging him right now. Yeah. But what is in this man's history? What is in this man's history that lets you know that will tell you that maybe he's gonna do something different? This man has not broken his promises to anybody. And the idea that don't keep doing the same thing over and over and set different results. It's the same thing as saying change in a different way.
Is that promise broken, that we can't be doing the same thing over and over? You think he has broken it or not?
No, my point is the idea of don't keep doing the same thing over and set different results is the same thing as saying we want change. So just reacting with change. Every other political party and the candidate that came with the same change. So the question is, who is really going to give us the change that will solve the value? That's the question we're going to be asking ourselves.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And let me the last point.
Please.
And, I'm a victim of the war, right? I'm a victim of the war. But I'm also going in order to know that the question is war bad? Yes. But is war necessary? Yes. War is bad, but it's also necessary. Because as a man, nobody will break into your house and try to kill your family. You say, oh, I'm a good person, you're not going to attack them. You know what I mean? So that's why one of America's leaders said, give me death or give me freedom. Because nobody want to live on any kind of oppressive regime. So then the question becomes, those people that participate in the war, they don't commit crime. They want to start judging them from based on a perspective. But if they say, oh, all the people that participate in the war, they're all evil people, they should not be.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Harrison. Thank you. Jimmy Ismail, quickly, so that I can get to my guests here. We'll wrap up things here.
Yeah, very good conversation with Mr. Jackson. Sometimes I like how you represent yourself, but everybody needs to know the first step in picking a candidate is to decide the issues you actually care about. Do you care about healthcare? Do you care about salaries? Do you care about education? Those things. Do you care about the war crimes court? Once you make up your mind about what you actually care about, then you look at the candidates and judge what position they have on these issues. Okay, that being said, I have a question for Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, you know very well that Mr. Cummings won't be able to do all the work himself. He needs leaders, not just functionaries, leaders that will lead people to do the right thing. It's not one leader we need several leaders. So my question to you is, these people he's bringing on board, are they leaders? And that's my question I have for you, and I'll take it in the back.
Yeah, thank
you. All
you.
right. Mr. Jackson, that would do it for the courts. I'll give you 5 minutes to respond, and then after that, we will get to your
5
closing.
minutes to all the callers, my man.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to answer everything, my man.
Thank you.
We've been here almost 2 hours, comrade. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to remain respectful to the callers, so I wanted to answer every call. But let me first thing the gentleman who called, and I think he says he's a Bwaka supporter, and said that I loyally support Minister Brown, Ambassador Brown, because he brought me to government. He didn't say the truth. And this is, like I keep saying to you, this is the problem in our country. The ingrained prejudices, the hearsay, and the perception, basically sometimes negative. I was in government long before Minister Brown came to the Sirleaf administration. All right, is the evidence there? So I say that Minister Brown, bro, that was a lawyer. I am respectful of Mr. Brown because I work along with him. And one of the shining characteristics of any good leader with Mr. Brown exhibited Amika, for which I remain loyal to him, was to delegate responsibility. Delegating responsibility is a strong pillar of any leadership credential everywhere around the world. Before a leader can delegate responsibility, he must be secure in himself first. If you work with Mr. Brown, he will delegate tasks. He remains unintimidated by what you're able to do because he's secure in himself. That's the man you're talking about. So first thing, we always dismiss the other story about what happened at LPRC. The man left LPRC, he got elevated. Yeah, somebody saying Ellen dismissed me from Mika and sent me to IMO. This is ridiculous. How do you dismiss somebody and promote them? This is not what. Look, brother, that he support Bwaka, and all the other gentlemen call, and even he said he support Bwaka, so he goes to the Machiavelli example that I tried to give. He said, oh, Machiavelli, he went through the rank and file and all that thing. That's why you see the team Cummings tried to draw a clever dichotomy between government experience and leadership experience. If you look to our old man Bwaka, what he has is the government experience, right? And that government experience embedded in that experience is the promotion of what? Tribalism. It's the divisive politics. If you have been associating with, the relics of the past, what new idea, what fresh idea are you bringing? That's a problem. Recent time, Mr. Bwaka went to his Reloaded show. What did he say that was embarrassing? That even though people promoting it as though it was a positive statement he made, Mr. Bwaka said, government pretending to pay civil servants, so civil servant pretending to work. I said, but this statement that civil servant pretending to work is a condemnation that should not be tolerated by Liberians. How can a formal statement goes to a public talk show, a friendly station, and say Liberians are pretending to work? The men and women who work in our health facilities, the doctors, is Mr. Bwaka saying they're pretending to work? No, these are people who are making sacrifices, offering themselves in sacrificial dedication to helping our country. Our teachers, they go to teach under the rain or shine. Ms. Bwaka telling us that the teachers are pretending to work? How could he have made such a statement? This is what Bwaka said. Yesterday, he said he was Parker. Today, he said he owe one. Who testing that one? Even the Bible says you can't put old one in new bottle because the wine will spill. We put only new wine in new wine skin. A new Liberia cannot get an old wine, old Bwaka, like he called himself. So it's just wrong. Now, I brought in Machiavelli to send home what I call the genuine and authentic leadership. Even though Machiavelli was part of the quote-unquote the associated with the sin decadent system, when he came, he led by example. I am saying, if a football team is losing game, and President Weah can relate to this, if a football, he better understand this. Every time you bring a new coach brings what? New energy, new dynamism. The new coach will not change the entire team. Even if the corporation is losing money, this new CEO you bring, you're not going to change everybody in the corporation. What you do, you change people around and you tap on their talent and you inspire confidence. In Liberia, you talk about black hand, green hand, what kind of hand, dirty hand. All of these hands that you're talking about are the hands that make up the Liberian reality that Mr. Cummings is about to deal with. So what Mr. Cummings is trying to do is not to isolate other people on the basis of perception. That's not what Mr. Cummings is doing. Mr. Cummings say, as a leader, I always lead by example. And here I say, Mr. Cummings is an exemplar of what? Unimpeachable integrity. So in leadership, that's what he's going to do. In the morning, he will be the first to go to work. If Mr. Cummings is the first to go to work, who do you think will come to work late? If Mr. Cummings tried to set example, shining example on people in the government who are deemed to be corrupt, like Makafuli did in Tanzania, announced their dismissal on live TV, you think people will be stealing like what they're doing in our government? We was so reluctant, even though the United States government, with its credibility, reputation, name 3 officials in the government that are hazardous to public office. We refuse to remove them from the government. Cummings will not do that. What example what we are serving when he expressed all the reluctance to move the 3 U.S. sanctioned criminals from the government? He was saying that he's comfortable with corruption. Cummings will not do that. In fact, Cummings will be so allied that America will not need to inform him that people stealing in his government. To even not be aware that people stealing on the scale that McGill and others were stealing on. It shows to you that Mr. Weir doesn't concern himself with Liberia. He's a merrymaker in chief. He dancing buka every day. He drinking alcohol. Small girls are fighting for him on Facebook. He debasing the standard of the presidency. Where in the world, brother, you see president making music, producing musical album? It is not part of the executive function of the government to make music. When people, you know, that's how he debates the country. Today, Mr. Weir is a what? Is a national laughing stock. When he detached himself from reality and collecting Liberia to Miami, was that a reality? No, it shows a sign of somebody who is detached. So when we talk about Team Cummings, and I love what the other caller said, look, we should not debate this man, like Jesus Christ, right? He's not a Jesus Christ, but because of the impeccability of his character, we expect and we know that what he will inspire in the country and in the government. When you have leaders stealing, the first to steal, everybody follow behind the leader will steal. We are the first to build 17 condominium complexes. We all explaining to us where he took that money from to build all the homes when he took government job for the first time. Even though before he became president, he could not even afford to pin his house on 9th Street. Suddenly, he started building things all around the country. What was that? It was a lesson for his people to steal. Cummings will not do that. So the point I'm making here is Cummings as head of the team, based on his integrity, he will inspire that in the team. So even if you say, oh, the other president had issue before, under Cummings leadership, they will do it differently. Because the leader of the team will inspire that confidence. President Sally, when she took over, to show that Liberian people can follow the leader, even we start from Toba. When Toba took over and brought a higher hat suit, everybody was wearing higher hat suit. That how Liberian can follow the leader loyally. All right? When President Sally took over, she inspired confidence. She started putting the lapa on her shoulder. All the women in the country were putting lap on her shoulder. She gave voice to the downtrodden women, the disadvantaged women everywhere across the country, in the interior. Women started becoming chiefs, unlike in Tampa. So she inspired women to what? To aspire to leadership. She did that. People will follow the leader. When President Weir came, he started with the propose suit. Everybody wearing propose suit. The way President Weir inspired propose suit and
Mr. Jackson, that is why we are saying, no, Mr. Jackson, I will come in here. You spoke for over 5 minutes. I've given you 5 minutes.
I was trying to answer the question now.
That is why you instead of answering the questions, you attacking Weir, which I think is okay. It's becoming repetitive now.
No, it's not repetitive.
And all that. We are sticking to the topic here. I can't. Yes. I brought you here to really make the case for coming into the question I'm asking you.
The case I'm making is for the respectability of the presidency. The presidency will inspire confidence. Machiavelli, when he took over, he didn't do like the old politicians did over there. He brought a new outlook. He brought new dynamism. He inspired confidence in his team. For the first time, the man canceled the hosting of Independence Day celebration. A Cummings comes to power and try to set this shining example. Who do you think will fall the line? Nobody will fall the line. When Machiavelli passed away, what was the hashtag? The hashtag all around the world, what would Machiavelli do? All right? So what will Cummings do? Cummings say, I am for the supremacy of the rule of law. You were giving the example with Jesus Christ and his disciple. That Mr. Cummings will bring clean people on board. It doesn't negate the fact that somebody who is clean today can be bad tomorrow.
Mr. Jackson, we have to go.
Did that, right?
Mr. Jackson, we have to go.
Yeah,
we have to go.
Let me conclude.
Mr. Cummings, hold on, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, hold on, please.
But
Mr. Cummings, Mr. Jackson, you can't be talking throughout. Mr. Jackson, no, you can't be talking throughout. I'm moderating. I've given you sufficient time, Mr. Jackson. You need to wait, sir. Please. Mr. Jackson, you need to wait. You need to wait. We have to be conversational here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Cummings, when Liberians were expressing outrage about a book co-authored by Ava Toba, in which he quoted somebody, Mr. Cummings saw it necessary to act. And some people applauded him for that, because he was trying to be sensitive to the concern of the people that he wants to lead.
Yeah.
Now, that was of less magnitude in my evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that to war and economic crimes people are being accused of, whether it's true or not. People are crying. I mean, people have expressed frustration. Why is Mr. Cummings doing it? He's mute.
No, but you see,
he takes no action. This is the standard that he's setting. Tomorrow, Mr. Cummings will appoint somebody. Liberians will express outrage, and he will not act. This is the example that he's setting, right?
So you just alluded to a shining example of the man zero tolerance on anybody trying to.
So you want to talk about that one? You don't want to talk about this one?
But you see, the facts are dissimilar here. This is something like what I say. So if you take that example now with the Cummings thing, right? Cummings becomes president. Anybody who does something wrong, he will penalize you immediately. He did that to Vatupa. He set example on Vatupa. The other thing you're talking about are not things that Mr. Cummings is clawed with. What he has said is that these allegations are coming. Like the other man who just
it is Mr. Cummings who made the decision to put these people on his list. That's a decision he made.
Yeah, that these people have declared their
the likes of Yeke Koluba now as part of his real change team, Jackson.
Oh yeah.
And you want me and like other Liberians to embrace that.
Brother, who could have thought? You see why it is dangerous to cancel people? You see the level of activism that Mr. Yeke Koluba is doing? Yeke today,
the activism of insulting certain president, being a bad example in our community,
the people who
behaves unruly in the House of Parliament.
Brother, you got to watch other parliamentary debate and see when the political atmosphere becomes.
Mr. Jackson, it's obvious you came here to justify every poor decision, every questionable character, because Mr. Cummings picks them, and Mr. Cummings now is what? He is now the political John the Baptist. Even you are quiet now. You are even quiet now about Musa ability. You were very vocal on this, man. Mr. Cummings is doing business with him, and now out of his selling, you don't even bring that up anymore, Mr. Jackson.
I found Mr. Cummings' argument reasonable and judicial that we should not dismiss people on the basis of prejudices. We should not dismiss or cancel people on the basis of hearsay and perception.
So you have a change of mind now, right? You have a change of mind now based on his argument.
Reasonable. I said, why are you saying this argument is not reasonable? Look at the Yeke you were pointing to, right? Today, Yeke is a vocal critic of the government, and he's doing it very well. Who else is challenging President Weah on the spot? Like Mr. Yeke is doing. Even if he did it using vocal language, that's a different conversation altogether. He is effective.
No, it's not. It's not.
Opposition person.
It's not.
Mr.
It's
Yeke
not,
is
because
effective.
this is a bad example. There are better ways of doing this, and Mr. Cummings is all for doing things a better way. So he should choose the better people.
Brother, it's a, you see, let me say this. It's a different conversation we can keep. I can argue here in defense of Mr. Yeke.
All right.
Respect is an earned credit. It is not an automatic right. If the president would debase the presidency, where small girls will be fighting for him on Facebook, do you want him to command respect for Yeke? If the president would choose to celebrate birthday party when Liberian people are hungry, do you want Yeke to use
Mr. Jackson, may I get your closing
language to describe his conduct, right? That's what you want?
May I get your closing in a minute, please?
In a minute, what I will say in concluding, Liberians are looking to a new future. Mr. Cummings is the gateway to the new Liberia, a new Liberia that will not discriminate, a new Liberia that will not exclude people on the basis of unfounded prejudices, perceptions, and hearsay. Mr. Cummings is the way to bringing all Liberians together in respect of what happened. For him, he will lead. And as a leader, he will set a shining example. We will follow his lead. We can bet on his past record, because if you go back to Mr. Cummings' past record, where he served, where he got his corporate experience, the appraisal that they gave him was that Mr. Cummings is a decent, responsible, and an integral man. That integrity that white people who are using white people intentionally, people who are not his relatives, his friends, his uncle, and niece and nephew, they are the one appraising him as being somebody with integrity. And when he was retiring, and they told him that this man will bring this, will transfer the integrity to Liberia. He will promote and elevate Liberia's standard. He will bring back respectability to the presidency. He's the way to the new Liberia. Let's stay with him. Let's not follow any or continue with the disgrace that's coming after us. This is a disgrace. When a leader conducts himself as though he had psychotic disorder, you look at Liberia, the way Liberia looking, and you liken Liberia to Miami. Is that reality? So today, people are mocking the leader nationally. They're laughing at him. But that man is detached from reality. So we don't want to continue in this line. We need a Cummings who will be measured, who will speak to reality, who, when Liberian people got issue, he will stand up and work for Liberia. He started doing that now. He was ruling investor in Canada, talking with investors. This is the way. A man who will invest in children education, irrespective of who established the school. As long as children are there, he will identify with the children. He will support education. He will support the rule of law. He will make sure that he can woo investors back to the country, bring industry, so Liberian people will get back to work. He is the gateway to the new Liberia.
Mr. Jackson, it's always an honor to have you. I think the discussion was spirited.
Absolutely.
And I see why it was not easy we didn't succeed in getting somebody from Team Cummings. There has been a very difficult discussion.
I think it's an easy conversation.
If anybody could hold this discussion, I think Axel Jackson got it done, even though I met him at disagreement. But I think you
don't want to be cheated by the evidence.
You hear your grant, and I want to thank you so much for what you do for our country. It was good having you. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right. And so, folks, this is how we will come to the end of this discussion. But you want to wait for this.
I'm Alexander B. Cummings, and I'm running for president of the Republic of Liberia.
nothing it can do. Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. I see my people working hard every day. And I pray, and I pray, and I pray, and I pray, and I pray that our leaders to bring us back the brighter days. In the corruption, bring your children protection. A new direction, we need a new direction. Make a change, yeah.
We need a new direction to make the change. The song says,
For the motherland, for you and me, yeah.
To make that change for the motherland, the song says,
For the motherland, make a change, yeah. For the motherland.
To make that change for the motherland is that agent of change, Alexander Benedict Cummings Jr.
For you and me, yeah. For the motherland, make a change, yeah. For the motherland.
To make that change for the motherland, and I think the folks in the ANC are saying, yes, Mr. Cummings is the guy. And I ask the question, why? How can we know that? Because he says we can't be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. Can we look at his decisions so far and say he is our guy? Well, let us listen to the beat again.
For you and me, yeah. But the motherland, make a change, yeah. But the motherland, for you and me, yeah. But the motherland.
The best predictor of future performance and future behavior is past performance and past behavior.
And he said it so eloquently. The best predictor of future performance and behavior is past performances and behaviors. So let us look at how he's making decisions now. Giving $55,000 to a warlord in the name of education. Putting on his real change team, mark that word, real change team, people who were involved heavily with the war, who probably have records we know for a fact or been documented of having significant role in the war. And these people, some of whom even have been accused of corruption. One of these things has been proven, right? The fact that they have this kind of record against them, and these are the decisions that he's making, and people are complaining and whining about these things. People have serious qualms about these individuals, and yet he maintains them. Does that sound like doing the same thing over and over now? Let us listen to that song again.
And as Liberians go to the poll on October 10th, I ask you to keep those two truths in mind and answer some of these hard questions about why we are where we are after 170. We have to do some things differently if we want a different country.
Make a change, yeah. For the motherland.
He said we have to do things differently if we want a new country. Is he doing things differently? Is the appointment of Daniel Nchie on his real change team different from what Prince Johnson did by rolling with what Joshua did, by rolling with Prince Johnson? Joshua is rolling with Prince Johnson. Is that in any way different what Joshua did by putting Joy Howard Taylor, the queen of the MPFL and the MPP, the former wife of Charles Taylor, the murderer of the first order who brought a wicked civil war on our people? That's what the decision Joshua made. How is what Cummings doing different? Daniel Nchie on his team giving Prince Johnson $55,000 in the name of his so-called education. What was he up to there? I mean, this is the best way he can spend his money to give it to a murderer of the first order who slaughtered a sitting president. Is that how one does something different? Is that how we change the direction of our country? Well, listen to that song again.
For you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland. For you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland. For you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland. For you and me, yeah, for the motherland.
Who will go below the surface, who will understand the economics of our country, who will focus on the how we can change our country. And that involves bringing all Liberians together with all the hearts and minds. That involves finding the money.
That involves bringing all Liberians together. Now I see the point. So bring Daniel Che, bring Louis Brown, bring McIntosh, bring Cassell, bring Yeke Koluba, bring just about every Liberian, no matter what they have done, no matter what they're being accused of, no matter what their records are, bring them together. That is how we do things differently. That is how we change Liberia. He said, who will find the how? Who will find the money? And so he found $55,000 for education for Prince Johnson.
Require funds, money to do the things we need to do. It will require government of inclusion. It will require growing the private sector and leveraging technology. So much.
Government of inclusion. Daniel Che might be included in our government, and all other person will be included in our government. The son is eloquent, Cummings is eloquent, but I happen to disagree. There's always a better way. They say, show me your friend, and I will tell you who you are. Cummings himself has said, past performances and behavior are the predator of future behavior and performances. So in the past, decisions he's been making have been head scratching. And now when he becomes president, why can we not say these decisions are the predators of his future performances and behavior? That is his standard, right? That is his saying. Does he not believe in that anymore? But again, I have to go now.
Liberians, this is what we offer you. This is what I want you to think about.
And he said, Liberia, this is what we offer you. And what he's saying he's offering is we can be doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Is he not doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? What is your answer? And so, folks, this is how we will bring down the curtains here.
Yeah, but the motherland, for you and me, yeah, but the motherland.
So that's how we change the direction of our country for the motherland. The song says, beautiful song, by the way. I wish that was a song they were playing at the ANC convention and not dancing a foreign song booker. When Liberians have gathered, instead of promoting a Liberian song, something that would have been much more nationalistic. But hey, that's no issue. That's the people's right to play whatever music they want, right? Except that it's not nationalistic enough. Well, it might be African enough. It might be supporting, a music made by another African. But I would have loved to see something more Liberian. But hey, that is what it is. My name is Anthony Sier. I have to take leave of you. I will bring you the song that says we are all Liberians. That song closes every broadcast here at Focus on Liberia. Until I see you again, when I do, remember, Anthony Sier is the name, Sier is the name. Enjoy the song. We are all Liberians, and bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.